Before we hit the road on today's discussion, I want to express our sincere gratitude to our sponsors. Without their support, this podcast wouldn't be possible. A big shout out to our sponsors that are advocate members: DHL, Louisville Paving, KKW, Fusion Now, Gordon Food Service, Midwest Carriers, Usher Transport, and Cook Trucking. Without your support, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So buckle up. Let's get ready for an insightful journey into all things next gen trucking, your road to the future. Hey, everybody. Welcome to NGT Talks. I'm very excited to have some esteemed guests on my show today. First of all, I want to introduce you to David Murphy with Key Oil and Dylan West with Key Oil, safety professionals, and then Brent Lauber with the Kelly Anderson Group. And we're going to start this off how we always do and just ask, how did you get into trucking, right? Next Generation in Trucking Association, we're trying to attract young people to the trucking industry. So I want to know from you how you got into trucking. David, let's start with you.
Well, I'd have to say indirectly, I got into trucking when I was in the Marine Corps because I was a logistics officer, and we hauled 35, 40 shiploads of Marines and cargo to Norway, to Germany, to Panama, and my job was to get it loaded safely, and then when we're offloaded in the country, is to get it reloaded and come back home. So indirectly, I got some experience there for about 18 years, and then just because my brother was already involved, he said I'd be a good fit in the solid waste business. And that ended up being safety manager for different companies and areas for 23 years. And after a reorganization in that business, I came on to be starting my 12th year with Key Oil. And ironically, each location in solid waste, and particularly with Key Oil, we were kind of like bottom feeders in safety.
Oh, gotcha.
When I started in Orlando with BFI, we were 330th out of the 333 locations as far as safety, and
Wow.
there wasn't really a lot of difference location to location that I was with, including Nashville. And basically faced the same type of situation with Key Oil. When I started, they were under 2 safety warning letters from DOT, FMCSA, and we just started with the basics.
That is awesome. So you went from the Marines to safety, and that's kind of how you got into your trucking career.
And really, it wasn't about teaching Marines or employees about safety regulations. It was teaching them how to go home safely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in teaching them the benefit of why we did things. And it really, I mean, particularly nowadays, it pays huge dividends to be able to not just tell somebody what to do, but explain to them what we want accomplished and have them give you that result.
I love it. That's exactly right. Dylan, what's your story? How'd you get into trucking?
So years ago, I was running a mobile mechanic business, and a friend of mine had a tow company, and I don't know, things just happened. He one day came to me and said, "Hey, I need a part-time driver." And a couple months after that, I was driving for his company and also dispatching for it. Moved on to another company from there, where I've hauled everything from repossessing cars because people couldn't make their payments to hauling 100,000-pound pieces of equipment down the road. And kind of just happened into it. I mean, it's something that's been in my family forever. My parents and uncles and stuff like that have drove trucks forever. So just kind of fell into it as a natural fit for me.
Absolutely. And how long have you been with Key Oil in safety?
I've been with Key Oil. Well, I came to Key Oil originally as a driver hauling fuel. I did that for a few years, and I've been here just over 6 years now. I've been in their safety department for almost 3 years. And that was another one of those. Honestly, I never would have thought I'd be in this position, and had an opportunity to talk with David and, figure, well, I could probably do that. I like helping people and seeing them succeed and do better. And he gave me a shot, and now here we are.
That's awesome. I love that story. It's so good. And you guys have done so much, and I can't wait to get into it. Brent, tell us your story.
Well, I'll try to keep mine short, but you know how I get talking. I actually came into transportation in a very different path. I started off in the golf industry as a golf professional. Uh, didn't have any idea what transportation other than just seeing trucks going down the road, of course. And of course, I was one of those people that honked and didn't like truck drivers for that matter at that time. But I had the opportunity to get into transportation as start off as selling freight. Was worked for Landstar Transportation. I went to work. Then I worked for TMC Transportation, a flatbed company. Got into some recruiting stuff, and then Kelly Industry Group found me. Todd Cornett is our vice president, and he actually contacted me. We were friends in high school, and now that I'm in the business, I wish I would have looked in the transportation years ago because I love it. It's absolutely a great business, and like we all say, without trucking, we have nothing.
That's right. So you wish you would have done more golf for fun, and
right,
and then trucking for your
right.
business.
And now I seem like I get to play golf for fun and have a lot more fun doing it
when it's not your job.
Meet great people like you and David and Dylan. I always say this. I wish I had 100 customers like David and Dylan because they are the epitome of safety. They really are. They do a great job. Congratulations to both those guys. They just won the Safety Company of the Year in the Kentucky Trucking Association, and Dylan won Safety Manager of the Year. I'm not sure what the title was exactly, but anyway, congratulations, guys. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
And that is a great segue. So one of the things that I like to preach is that we're trying to get young people to come and consider careers in trucking and help get them trained. But we have to have companies that are great to work for, that young people are going to want to come and work for, and that uphold safety as the number one priority is everybody get home safely. So with that being said, David and Dylan, I want to hear about Key Oil and your vision to turn around your safety scores so that safety is number one. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, to begin where I started with back in 2013, I just wanted to follow law. And we were a company that didn't do it well. And so if I said to employees, and I did, we want to follow the law, we want to follow regulations, and we want to follow company policy. And in order to do that, it's very simple. We're just going to explain to you why we need these things done. And those that don't want to do it, no problems. We'll work on your replacements. And immediately I lost 40% of the drivers.
Wow.
Over time, we wanted to establish our own driving school, and then Sky CTC locally in Simpson County did that, and we immediately attached ourselves to them, donating equipment and our time to build a relationship. And and I had seen it prior with driving schools in Florida that I had worked with, where drivers would come to us after they figured out what over the road meant. And the same thing with the Sky CTC school. They do a very good job of getting people prepared. And I think in our driver training evolution post the orientation period, we bring that driver to the next level in competence, as well as in our our line of work, which is totally different than most trucking jobs. Um, and we've had for the most part success, and even sometimes, when we don't, we use that information to learn from it.
So you really, I mean, you pulled off the Band-Aid pretty harshly in that you lost 40% of your driving workforce. And you management probably looked at that and did not think that was a good thing. But where you are today, how many years later, and what you have developed, what was the process of changing your focus from um, just getting by and doing the bare minimum to you coming in wanting to completely change the culture and have a culture of safety? Like, what was the process in getting that done? Obviously you lost some people and you brought in Dylan. What was that like? And Dylan, maybe you want to chime in. Like, how did you all, what all did you do to make this a priority?
The one thing that I needed to get through initially was we don't need to hire uh, an industry experienced fuel driver. We want to pick the best people and train them on our policies and procedures. And that right there was probably the key, because even people, and Dylan can speak to this, even people who have come straight out of school because they were the most highly recommended of the school superintendent, once we got them trained, they became some of the best drivers in the workforce. And then going to you, Lindsey, and hearing 2 3 years ago your presentation to KTA, it just turned on a switch to recognize that, hey, we're not seeing 40, 50, 60-year-old people in the interview process. We're seeing 20 and 30-year-old people.
Right.
And that whole aspect of how do you train somebody that's not a baby boomer or whatever that next generation was, and what do they expect, it turned into everything that Dylan and I are doing now, and that is with the simulator, with inexperienced licensed drivers. And I'll even take it back a step further. Dylan's in the ELDT register and trains non-CDL employees to get their commercial license.
So, when I came in, one of the things I set out to make sure that I do is, knowing I learned so much when I took this position, going from a driver to a safety manager. And I wanted to make sure that anybody that I work with, anybody that comes in and does orientation with me or is already a driver here, realizes the part they play in that. And, as a driver, it's like, well, I'm just one driver in a truck. I don't really matter. So I go out of my way to explain to them why everything they do matters. And that's worked great. David did a good job of that before I got in here also. Just changing that from, where he first came in, it was kind of adversarial. Hey, you're going to do what I say, because that's kind of what had to happen, because there was a bunch of, I guess you could call them cowboys that were just doing whatever they wanted, to now we have guys that understand, hey, we're on the same team. Our guys, it's great. They'll come into my office or David's office and just chat with us. They'll come in and you know, if they see us do something wrong, because we're not human, we're human. We don't do everything perfect.
That'd be me.
They'll come in and gladly call us out on it, just like, you know, we're going to say if they do something wrong. And that's part of it, you know, knowing that, again, we're all on the same team. We all have the same goal at the end of the day. But like I said, the biggest thing for me, I came in and basically reimagined how we're using all the Lytx cameras. I am big on data. I love any data point I can get. I'm going to take it and use that information to try and help make drivers better. And we'll talk more about the simulator here in a little bit, I'm sure, because that's a great idea too that I have. And help make them better. And that's how, you know, we have our single digit CSA scores. You know, how we've won our insurance captives President's Circle Award a couple of times now. And, you know, we're no longer that company that's getting those warning letters.
Well, and that's something that's interesting because you are an ELDT provider. So you can train somebody to get their CDL. You're partnering with your community college, getting people with no experience, but coming to work for you. How did you work that out with your insurance to be able to, because you're in a captive. So how did you work that out to be able to insure these drivers who are inexperienced?
Great question.
That is a good question. And as long as they had a clean driving record within the parameters of the insurance company and were over 22, 23 years old, the insurance company accepted it. We have hired, I'm going to say we have hired a couple drivers who were 20 years old, and we knew they had to stay in state. And so with the new authority given to us by FMCSA, they didn't push back on it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool.
I mean, that is awesome. But your insurance, you know, would not have approved that years ago when you had single digit scores. So really, in order to build what you've built and what you have today, you had to build a robust training program. One of the things that you guys have done was brought in the Kelly Anderson Group, which are video series. Brent, tell us a little bit about Kelly Anderson Group and what you guys do.
Yeah, well, we are kind of our little saying is that we find, recruit, train, and retain your drivers. So with that being said, when I say find, we actually have an advertising department that will advertise for companies based on their needs. We can either piggyback off what they're doing or we can do it ourselves. We have a whole team of people that do that now. That stay on top of the ads and make them refreshed and keep them at the top of the list. Basically, we also, of course, and that's as far as the finding part of it. The recruiting part, we're a little different than most people. We don't act as part of we actually act as part of your recruiting staff. So we don't share drivers. We don't have a group of drivers. We will actually go out and act as part of your recruiting staff and find drivers for you guys, for your companies. And then we have our retention department, which we're retained. We through our statistics, we've been able to increase turnover rates by 38 to 40%, which is huge in this market, as you know. By simply talking to drivers on a regular basis to make sure they're happy, make sure their things are going the way they were told they were going to go. And it opens the door for them to be able to talk to our people and not have to worry about the things coming from the company, retribution from the company. So that's been a great thing. And then our e-learning, as David was talking about, we have our full gamut. We have a full LMS system that has over 400 safety modules in a library. You can actually add to that. We just developed a new, well, thanks to David and Dylan, a recognition program that we've been doing. And David, they did a great job implementing that with their team, and they've seen a lot of success. They can talk about that too again if they want to. But we also have all the ELDT modules as well. We don't do the behind the wheel training, but we do the theory training. So we have all those as well. That's kind of an overview of what we do, of course.
So, David and Dylan, how do you use the Kelly Anderson group for your needs?
So we use their learning management platform, and we use that to send out training to all of our drivers once per quarter, usually 2 to 3 of the modules per quarter based off of, again, that data that we have that shows, any potential low-hanging fruit we have and try to get drivers trained up and efficient at those items. We also use it with our bonus program and Lytx, to where if a driver has a triggered event for, let's say, for example, speeding, they will get assigned a module within Kelly Anderson Group system for speeding. And where our system, we have a deduction on it that will actually cut their deduction in half, which is a win-win, because then we have documented training for that issue the driver has, but the driver doesn't take as big of a hit for making possibly a simple one-time mistake.
Right.
Yeah. And it's all tracked on a scorecard, so it shows us not only who are the drivers in most need of help and for what, and who are the drivers exceeding expectations. And then it's all broken down by location. So we can see within 10 locations, whose core drivers are averaging the best scores. And so we can say Bowling Green has the highest scores and the E-Town has the lowest scores, and it will be indicative of what we need to concentrate on at each location.
Hey, David, I have a question for you along those lines. Do you see? We've heard stories from some of our other customers about competition among drivers and doing the scores, and you guys track that at all, or do they seem to have that same type of competition in your company?
So for the past few quarters, a bit of a challenge I've issued, not necessarily specifically to the drivers, but to the managers, is who can get this done first? Who can do the platform and complete these modules first? And this past quarter, we had a group of 40 drivers completed within like 6 days of the quarter, something like that. The quarter before that, we had one group that just knocked out of the park and did it within 1 day. So we kind of make a little bit of a competition here and there. Yeah. We're starting to use some other stuff, and there'll be some competitions using some other things we're working on also. Me personally, I love putting locations against each other a little bit as a friendly competition, so you can see who the better guy is. Yeah. Which then just drives all of them to try and outdo one another. And I can think of one other scenario where we were using our first version of our driving simulator we have to test reaction times. We were doing it at safety meetings, and it was just a way to get participation in it. So we'd put drivers down on this computer system and say, okay, whoever gets the best reaction time gets a marathon gift card, which is funny because the guy who got the fastest reaction time was one of our eldest drivers who had a double knee replacement. So,
hey, there you go. Well, that's a good segue, I have to say, because we love driver simulation training, and we were at Skills USA this year. We had a Virage driver simulator there, and we had students constantly coming, and a lot of these were diesel tech students or construction or welding students. They were coming every day, heavy equipment operating students, and we had a competition. We had several students every day that would get 100% on the driver route that we had. I did it and I got a 59%. So these students, these young people are really good at this. And I think it's with that, those video games that they play, but they have good spatial body movement reactions. And so, Dylan, you created a driver simulator. What was your vision behind this, and how have you developed it into using it for your employees?
Then I started looking, and we found some software out there that was still fairly expensive. It was a couple $1,000s, but it seemed like it would suit the needs. So that was our kind of our first version. Quickly realized that it wasn't very immersive. It wasn't
Adaptable.
It just kind of had, here's your scenarios. This is all you get. Good luck. And then David was asking me, how can we make this better? The idea behind it is, we want to put drivers on this system to just kind of see what their reactions are in certain scenarios, how they adapt to different situations. And, okay, you have too close a following distance, or you're not paying attention to the fact that that street sign said, stop sign ahead. So you blew through a stop sign, things like that. We have a score sheet that we can use to identify those issues and give them a score at the end of it, and combine that with some, again, ongoing training, and you can put them through that system again later on and see if their score improves. The system's still fairly new, so I'm still coming up with new ideas for it and stuff, and it's going to continue to improve. But right now the idea is anybody who comes in during orientation, we'd put them through it just to see kind of where their baseline is.
Yeah.
And go from there. And that would also help our behind the wheel instructors to know kind of where to focus with these drivers while they're out training them through the period that they're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So transforming your safety at Key Oil, you have the simulator, you've done the Kelly Anderson videos, you train Smith Systems training, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Smith System is the best example of a very smart man trademarking common sense. And if you untrained, as an untrained driver coming just in high school, if you looked at it from the standpoint, how do I get the best view of the road? How can I maintain that? And what should I be looking for? That's the Smith System. And I've been using it since 1997. And Dylan's been trained and certified for it for the last 2 years, and he's going for recertification in another month or so. And it is the most rewarding thing that takes a very long time, because once drivers recognize that these truths are self-evident, they will come to you and ask for reference material, because they're going to teach it to their kids, their nieces, and their nephews.
Wow.
And I've experienced that, and it is a mark. It's a mark at the level of culture that you've developed. And so I always keep extra pamphlets and keychains, and every once in a while, a driver will say, believe it or not, I got a grandson who's going to start driving, and they'll ask. And so, like I said, it's just a very common sense approach of obtaining information while you drive, and making decisions as how to keep your space so that you're not where other people's accidents occur.
Yeah. It sounds like a lesson that we could all learn.
Yeah.
Anything else that you guys have done that you want to share on how you transformed your safety? I mean, winner of the 2024 Safety Director of the Year, and the company, as a company, you won safest company in Kentucky. So any other things that you've done to make this your culture now at Key Oil?
I think the fact that Dylan brought it up earlier, that the drivers expect us to be looking at them and for them, as well as they will let us know that they will be looking for us too. So if we're in a company vehicle and somebody somebody doesn't completely stop at a stop sign, somebody's going to knock on a door and say, "Hey, I saw you."
Mm-hmm.
But that's no different than the way we would address them, and they appreciate that camaraderie. They appreciate the involvement, and we reward them at their safety meetings based on the level of success they've had, and but either by personally cooking a meal for them or catering a meal for them, and they would get anything from smoked bologna and a hot dog to filet mignon. And so
Hey,
they
I
do
love that smoked bologna. That sounds good.
and that's the low side. That's the low end.
Yeah.
And so they do appreciate that. We've had a couple safety meetings where there's been some free play at gaming centers, and as well as rookie of the year, driver of the year, those kinds of awards.
Yeah. So really recognizing your employees and your drivers for what they're doing, and really making it a culture of shining your drivers as great employees. So how have you all built the relationships and seen transformations in your operations and dispatch and drivers? How do you develop those relationships and make sure that they're cohesive?
That's the next step in the bigger challenge, because you want the drivers to know that their supervisor comes from operations and dispatch, and that the information that's safety sensitive is as much an operations concern as it is a safety concern. That's a work in progress.
Yeah, and I think it probably always is, right? Building that safety culture and then building up the communication culture of all the groups that are there to do what you all do.
In the most successful organization in my past, whether you were a sales rep or a truck washer, you went through the initial same training as a driver. And because we just had this example just before we turned the cameras on. A supervisor was asking, what do we do when a driver can't get into a location because of environmental features or landscaping or low overheads? And it's, does safety make that call? Does operations make that call? And it's all about the supervision having as big a hold of the safety culture as the safety department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is such a great thing. I mean, making sure that the vision is shared throughout the company. And you all are a family-owned company, right?
Yes.
Family-owned. You've been around for a long time. You've got generations that are in the organization, and so it is.
Yes, we had the youngest generation interning with us.
So how was the internship? I want to hear.
So he actually celebrated his 21st birthday with us. So that was kind of fun. Honestly, it went great. It was the owner's youngest son. He spent the summer kind of hanging out with me, learning what we do as a safety department, and just kind of observing it and trying to get an idea. And right before he left to go back to college for his senior year, he'll be back to go full-time with us next summer. I was asking him, like, so what do you think? And he goes, there's a lot more to this than I ever would have imagined. But he definitely learned a lot. And I'm actually looking forward to him coming back from college and seeing what he can do when he comes back. It's actually kind of exciting to me now.
Yeah, because he probably thought, oh, it's safety. You just tell him to be safe, and that's it, right? Not knowing that there's so much to it.
Right, and that's the thing, is he realized that it's not as easy as just say, "Yep, don't wreck the trucks." You actually have to be a bit more proactive than that, and identifying issues before they become issues as best you can, and trying to keep everybody on their toes. For a while, actually, we stopped doing it shortly after I took this position, but we had a motto in our safety department, which was point of aim is point of impact, which goes back to a shooting reference of what you aim at is what you're going to hit target wise. Well, it's always a moving target. If you focus on one thing, you're going to get better at that one thing, but the last thing you focused on is going to fall down a little bit. So you got to keep moving that around and continue to put it in front of drivers to keep them reminded of all these different things.
And that's where Kelly Anderson's learning management system comes in, because if you don't keep rotating stuff, and not to be too repetitive, but if you don't keep reimagining how you're going to present it and use it in a timely fashion so that it impacts the most employees every time that you do it. Even though every employee gets a Smith system in orientation, we hadn't done a presentation and using examples of the keys actually since before the pandemic. But this is what we're doing now, is using the Lytx, the good to bad Lytx videos that we have, and using them as the examples of what the 5 keys should look like, or an example of what's wrong with this in reference to a key in itself, whether it's following distance or keep your eyes moving or leave yourself an out, anything like that. So it's a constant, because I've seen over time that you have to keep up with, not just, hey, here's a new DOT regulation or revision. You got to keep up with the fundamentals that you teach them in orientation, because if it's not kept in front that it's important to you, their expectation is it's not important anymore.
Right.
Wow. So it's constantly that moving target. I love that. Just constantly going for that. And I have to say, when I started in trucking, I knew nothing about it, but I went through the vertical alliance LMS system of what the drivers learned. And so I was a salesperson, and it was so invaluable to me to be able to learn all of these things that a driver learns and what it's all about. And I highly recommend any new hire going through this system, these videos, as a part of their orientation process, just like the drivers would. I think it's invaluable, really.
I totally agree with that, Lindsey. And just to say, like on David's point, I mentioned I worked for TMC years ago, a flatbed company. And when I was hired on, all the new employees, no matter what, again, I was selling freight, keep that in mind. But we had to go out and they didn't actually let us get on the truck to tarp it. But they had us pick up the tarps to see how heavy they are. And they kind of had an imaginary load. Not imaginary, but a fake load we did on the ground. I'm telling you, it opened my eyes. Think about these guys and gals doing this when the snow's going on and the ice and all this stuff. And it gave me a whole new understanding of what they do and a whole new appreciation. And also, want to speak real quickly on, we keep talking about safety culture. Again, David and Dylan did such a great job with that, but it has to come from the top. It really does. If it doesn't come from the top, it won't be successful. But there's just so many advantages that David and Dylan can speak on too about having a good safety culture and what the results of that can be. They're always going to outweigh the negatives, no matter what. I mean, you're going to lower CSA scores. You're going to be able to attract better drivers. You're going to be able to retain drivers. It's going to help with your insurance costs. I mean, it's endless. The things that can happen with having a good safety record and not having one. And David, you guys can surely speak on that for sure.
You were saying what you had to do at TMC. It's kind of funny. I think it was last week, actually. our IT guy was like, I don't know what these drivers go through. I don't know what they're having to do. And he asked me if it'd be a good idea for him to go ride with a driver. And I'm like, here's a hard hat and a pair of safety glasses. Dispatch and go do it. I'm like, the only way you can truly appreciate what they're doing on a day-to-day basis is just to go with them and see it, because it's a lot more than what you might imagine.
Yeah, the role of a driver, I mean, e-logs, bill of ladings, load load development, equipment securement, so load planning. I mean, all that stuff has to be done on every load,
Mhm.
10 to 12, sometimes 14 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week. In our case, an option for a 6 day. That is a hard job.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And
And
now,
customer service.
customer service. I mean, so and literally their bonus program is everything safety related and everything performance related, to include customer service. Now, Lindsey, here's a question for you. In Gen Z, in their learning, what's the best way? Because we always don't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been exceptional. We've been exceptionally lucky for the youngest people we have hired. How do you define, and how do you, as far as the description of and for their understanding of work?
That is a great question. Um, and probably something I should do a little bit more research on. But I would say that Gen Z, they want to be in mentoring relationships where they can see what that looks like. And I think so, having your older drivers who have that great work ethic, really modeling it in maybe even a formal fashion of, riding along together and really seeing it and building that relationship. So it is more of a mentoring relationship. I also see there is a value in starting people in the learning process younger, where they don't have a chance to form bad habits. They get right into working and working hard and reaping the benefits of that, which is feeling good about what they do every day because they're working hard and they're doing something that's tangible for the entire state, right? Thank you for what you do, because you deliver my fuel that I get every day, and that they can see it in their paycheck as well. And so I feel like the younger that we can get them and get them on the right pathway to hard work, which we all do, right? We're all hard workers, and we want to have other people see that being a hard worker is going to really improve your life, your self-esteem, your self-worth. And it's a great question though, and something that I need to look into more.
What's funny, back when I was working and managing the tow company, my continuous motto to my the owner of the company was, I'm not hiring some guy who has experience hauling this stuff. I'd rather go hire somebody who's never seen a tow truck a day in their life because of the bad habits. I can teach them the way I want them to do it. They don't know anything different.
Right.
And then they can be successful because of that. So I tend to, we have a couple of dispatchers here who say the first question until we hire somebody is, well, do they have fuel experience? No.
Yeah,
we're
going to teach it to them.
We're going to teach them fuel experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. So where do you all see the future for Key Oil and your workforce as you build up an even safer workforce and you're building up that younger generation? I mean, where do you see the future for your company?
Well, hopefully, I see the number one son and the second son intern taking their Gen Z experience and education and applying to what they may have experienced with us. And as well as I hope that with our continued success, the growth of the company can be helped by the marketing tool of being the safest fleet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we continue to grow. We have 100% manpower count at all 10 locations. We are not hiring right now. We just had an over-the-road driver who was part of a class at Sky CTC over 2 years ago, and has decided she wanted to look for something else, and she remembered our presentation.
Wow.
How many trucking companies can say they're not hiring her now?
Yeah, she came in and sat down and talked with us, and I told her put an application in. I said if something comes open, we'll call her, but I don't have anything open. All of our trucks are full right now, which is crazy to think. I mean, I've got friends in this industry, and they're quite jealous of that fact, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's a great point. That's one thing too that we highly recommend is really going into education. And maybe you have to have 2 years experience, or maybe you're not hiring at this moment, but building relationships with people and having those people remember who you are, so that when they are ready to come work for you, that they come in and say, hey, I remember you all, and I'd like to consider working for you. So that's a great marketing recruiting tool that you can do. And it's fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's funny when we go to the school and stand in front of the class. I think part of why we stand out, and it happens more often than you think, where somebody comes back 6 months, a year, 2 years later and says, hey, I remember you guys came and talked to us. Is we don't go in there as recruiters. We're not going in there with a sales pitch. We're going in there saying, hey, here's some tips about this industry. Here's what you're getting yourself into. Here's who we are and what we do. Hey, by the way, if you have any questions, here's our phone number. Call us. And if you're looking for a job, come see us.
And maybe that is something they want to do for a while, but might get old and they want to come and work for you. I mean, there's so many jobs in trucking that it's great to have options and good companies that they can come and work for. And I think that's great that you all have partnered with your local community college and you do your own training. I mean, having options.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love, the guy who runs the school down there, his name's Morris. He's a really cool guy. He'll call me occasionally because he's not quite clear on some regulatory thing, or I've called him a couple times while setting up our ELDT program going, hey, I'm not quite sure how to do this. And he'll give me that knowledge and how they do it at the school. It's just, it's a great partnership to have.
Awesome. Well, I am so thankful that you came on the show today. I am really thankful that I've gotten to know you all and that you all have a vision and a desire really to make the job at Key Oil for your drivers better, make their lives better, and really create that culture of, it's an environment where you all respect each other, you care about each other, and you have an open door policy. And I think that if we had more companies do that, then we would continue to be able to attract more young people into the industry, because they would come to work every day loving what they do and knowing that they're going to come home safe and that they're on a mission to do whatever that company does, whatever they haul, because we need fuel, right? We want to go to school and on vacation. And so it's important to do what you do.
Absolutely.
And is there anything else that you would want to share about where you see the future going, or what you have done and built?
Neuroscience.
No, I mean, the only thing is that I would recommend is always be looking for the next best thing. For example, we've been talking, I mentioned to you the other day, a guy named Zachary from a company called Lytx Neuroscience, and they're piloting this whole new program to help identify drivers' kind of gaps in what they're doing. And we actually just started kind of messing around with their program, putting a couple of drivers through their demo. And I just got an email from them today talking about how we're going to move forward and try and use that. Because again, in my opinion, more information is more better, you know, as long as you're using it. If you don't use it, you might as well just close your eyes and hope for the best. But, you know, always be looking for the next best way to get that information and try to use it as proactively as you can to get out in front of any kind of issues or you know, potential problems that you might have arise. And also then, you know, it becomes more engaging for the drivers, and then you get to know your guys better. I mean, we got a great group of guys who have a ton of personality, and, you know, I enjoy every day when they come in and just chat with us.
Absolutely. And I love that.
The interesting thing about Zachary and the program he's developing, I didn't realize this, but he started the light ship after working with this type of program with professional baseball scouts, and they used it in the advanced high school athlete, in the college athlete, and it was about recognition, eye movement, and reflexes. And it's part of what Moneyball was about, if you know the movie Moneyball.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what they were looking for were the same things you need to be an attentive driver. And that's how the bridge came into what he's doing now.
That is fascinating.
So he was working with professional agents and scouts to say, hey, you got a first round draft pick here. Or to say now they're using it, and we can say to the driver in a competitive manner, you know, you've scored the highest in risk recognition amongst your peers, and we also know who needs more work.
Wow, that's amazing. I am so excited about. I feel like that is kind of a new concept for us, and I can't wait to for that company to grow and for them to really make a difference.
And that knowledge will tie into what we need to be doing with the simulator.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what videos we need to see from Kelly Anderson.
That's right. It's all full circle, right? So, well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you all, and I appreciate what you all do with Kentucky Trucking Association, and Brent, all your work with the Kelly Anderson Group. Thank you for what you're doing to make driving better and make our roads safer. And we're just glad that you guys could be on the show and share what you all are doing in that safety space. So we appreciate you being on, and looking forward to what you guys continue to do and what you see as the next best thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great being part of this group.
Yes. Thanks, Lindsey, for putting this together. And David, Dylan, thanks for everything you do, and for being the epitome of safety. Like I say, I wish I had thousands of customers like yourself. But just one last thing I just want to say again, you know, when I say the epitome of safety, you look back at if you could, I don't have it up in front of me right now, but the statistics that they have been able to improve from CSA scores, the crash score, and it's just amazing, especially being a fuel company hauling a hazardous material, that if you have a crash in one of those trucks, it's not like a little pickup real quick, you know, it's major.
Well, we don't want to talk about that because that might restart the clock on our record so far year to date.
Okay, scratch that. But no, seriously, you guys do a great job, and I'm so proud of you guys, and congratulations again on your awards at the KTA this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thanks.